Hello. So today we'll be talking about a book that was written in 1958 by Michael Young called Meritocracy. I'll be giving you a summary of the book, and throughout the summary, I think it'll be quite evident how this book written so long ago is so relevant to us today. This book was published in 1958, and it's a satirical dystopian novel that explores a future British society where social status is solely determined by intelligence and effort. It is also incidentally the book that coined the term meritocracy. And while now this word has positive connotations, Young used it ironically to critique a system where those deemed less meritorious are systemically disadvantaged. When it was published in 1958, it was a satirical take of the tripartite system of education in the UK, and it explores themes of social mobility, inequality, and the potential pitfalls of a society that's obsessed with merit. So let's begin. The year is 2033. This is the year in which the narrator, a sociologist writing a historical account, is looking back on the rise of the meritocracy and the consequences it has led to. The meritocracy started in the year 1870, according to the book. And the time in which the narrator is writing is where the meritocratic system is at its peak. The old social order, with its muddled distinctions of class and lineage, has long since crumbled. In its place stands a shining new edifice, the meritocracy. Intelligence and effort, those twin pillars of human potential, are now the sole determinants of one's place in society. The formula is simple, elegant even. IQ plus effort equals merit. Gone are the days when birth or privilege could secure a life of ease. Now, every child, regardless of background, is rigorously tested, their innate abilities measured and categorized with scientific precision. Those brightest and those blessed with high intelligence are channeled into the most demanding and prestigious fields. They become the scientists, the policymakers, the leaders of industry. Those with lesser scores find their niches lower down the ladder, and their roles vital but less celebrated. We are told that this is the ultimate expression of fairness, a society where everyone gets what they deserve, where talent rises to the top, and where the reins of power rest firmly in the hands that are most capable. And yet, in this system that seems perfect, a certain unease lingers. The lower classes, once resigned to their fate, now grumble about the tyranny of intelligence or the dictatorship of the intellect. They see the meritocratic elite, those born with the silver spoons in their mouth, not silver spoons of wealth, but of intellect, pulling further and further away. The old aristocracy might have been flawed, but at least it was familiar. The old aristocracy was bound by tradition and a sense of obliging nobility, where the royals felt some sort of responsibility for their subjects. This new breed of rulers, cold and calculating, seems concerned with only efficiency and progress, their eyes fixed on some distant horizon. Even among the elite, there are whispers of discontent. The pressure to succeed is relentless and the competition is fierce. Children are educated very intensely from a young age, and their every waking moment is devoted to the pursuit of academic excellence. The joy of learning, the simple pleasure of discovery, is lost in the relentless drive for higher test scores and better rankings. Is this, then, the utopia we were promised? A world where the human spirit is sacrificed on the altar of merit? The machinery of meritocracy hums with ruthless efficiency. Every year, a new cohort of children is subjected to a battery of tests, their intellectual potential laid bare. The 11+ examination, once a mere gateway to grammar school, is now a life-defining event. Scores are meticulously recorded, percentiles calculated, and destinies are assigned. Those who excel are called the high flyers, and they are whisked away to elite academies where they are groomed for leadership. They aren't just taught facts in these academies, but they're also taught the art of command, the subtle skills of persuasion and influence and manipulation. These are the future mandarins, the technocrats who will steer the ship of state. For the less gifted, the path is less glamorous. They are directed towards vocational training. Their education is tailored to the needs of the economy, and they become skilled workers and technicians, the cogs in the vast machine of progress. They are taught to respect their superiors. They are taught to understand their place in the hierarchy. And what happens to those who fall at the very bottom of the scale, the technically backward, as they're euphemistically called? They are relegated to menial tasks. Their lives are a cycle of drudgery and deprivation. They are the cleaners, the laborers, the invisible hands that keep the wheels of society turning. The government is staffed entirely by meritocrats. It keeps assuring all the citizens that this is the fairest of all possible systems. From each according to his ability, to each according to his merit, they proclaim as their official slogan. But a nagging question persists. What happens to those abilities that are deemed insufficient, whose merit is found lacking? Are they simply discarded like faulty components in a machine? And what about the human cost of this relentless pursuit of efficiency? This obsession with quantifying and ranking every aspect of human existence? The social divide that was once blurred and porous now solidifies into an impenetrable barrier. The meritocrats, gathered in their houses of privilege, inhabit a world apart. They speak their own language, a slang of technical terms and abstract concepts incomprehensible to the masses. They marry amongst themselves, and their children inherit not just their genes, but also their elevated status. The lower classes, meanwhile, are left to stew in their resentment. They see the meritocrats as aloof and arrogant, out of touch with the realities of everyday life. The old working class solidarity, once a source of strength and pride, has been eroded by the relentless emphasis on individual achievement. The populist leaders, sensing an opportunity, fan the flames of their discontent. They start railing against the intellectual elite, accusing them of hoarding power and wealth. They promise to restore the common man to his rightful place and to dismantle the meritocratic system that has rigged the game against them. But their words ring hollow. They offer no real solutions. They offer only scapegoats and empty slogans. The people are now desperate for change. They cling to these false prophets, hoping against hope that they can somehow turn back the clock. All the while, the meritocracy marches on, its grip on society ever tighter. The universities were once places of intellectual freedom, but now they are factories churning out compliant technocrats. The media is controlled by the same elite, and it reinforces the same narrative of meritocratic supremacy. Any form of dissent is silenced. Any form of criticism is dismissed as the sour grapes of the envious. Is there no escape from this golden cage? Is there no alternative to a society where human worth is measured solely by intellectual powers? The seeds of rebellion are sown, but they find little fertile ground in a population so conditioned to accept its fate. However, the inevitable backlash begins to take shape, not in the form of violent revolution, but as a creeping discontent that festers beneath the surface of society. The very foundations of the meritocracy, once seemingly unshakable, start to crack. The problem, it turns out, lies not in the concept of merit itself, but in its narrow definition. Intelligence, as measured by standardized tests, becomes the sole yardstick of human worth. Other qualities, important human qualities, like creativity, empathy, practical skills, are all undervalued and even dismissed as irrelevant. This short-sighted focus on the intellect creates a perverse incentive structure. Parents are so obsessed with their children's success that they push them relentlessly. They're turning childhood into an endless grind of tutoring and exams. The joy of learning is extinguished, and it is replaced by a grim determination to climb the meritocratic ladder. Even among the elite, doubts begin to surface. The pressure to perform takes its toll. It leads to burnout, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of emptiness. The meritocrats, despite their material comforts and social status, find themselves trapped in a golden cage of their own making. One disillusioned high flyer says, "We have created a society where everyone is unhappy. The clever ones are miserable because they know they are only playing a game, and the stupid ones are miserable because they know they are losers." The cracks widen. The lower classes, tired of being patronized and ignored, begin to organize. They form their own associations, their own schools, their own communities. They reject the values of the meritocracy, embracing instead a different kind of merit, one based on compassion, solidarity, and a shared sense of purpose. The stage is set for a confrontation not between the rich and the poor, but between those who cling to the old order and those who yearn for a new way of life. The question is, will the meritocrats, blinded by their own arrogance, recognize this danger before it's too late? A century has now passed since the dawn of the meritocracy, and the society envisioned by its architects lies in ruins. The populist revolts, once dismissed as the grumblings of the discontented, have erupted into a full-scale rebellion. The masses, led by a charismatic figure known as the populist, have risen up against the meritocratic elite, their anger fueled by decades of resentment and inequality. The streets of the major cities are engulfed in chaos. The symbols of meritocratic power, the universities, the government buildings, the gleaming towers of industry, are now besieged by angry mobs who surround them. The technically backward were once docile and resigned, but now they wield their collective power with a vengeance. The meritocrats are caught off guard by the ferocity of the uprising. They retreat into their fortified enclaves. They try to maintain order, to reason with the rebels, but their appeals fall on deaf ears. The language of logic and reason, the currency of the meritocracy, is powerless against the raw emotion of the mob. The populist is a master manipulator. He exploits the chaos to his advantage. He promises the people to return to a simpler time, a time before the tyranny of intelligence, a time when everyone had their place and knew their role. He offers them not equality of opportunity, but equality of outcome, a world where everyone is valued regardless of their abilities. In the end, the meritocracy collapses under the weight of its own contradictions. The very system designed to ensure stability and progress has sown the seeds of its own destruction. The pursuit of merit, taken to its logical extreme, has created a society driven by inequality and resentment. As the dust settles, a new order emerges, one that rejects the rigid hierarchies of the past. The populist, now firmly in control, starts to dismantle the institutions of the meritocracy, replacing them with a system that values community, tradition, and social cohesion. The wheel has turned full circle. The meritocracy once was hailed as the ultimate expression of fairness. It has now been consigned to the dustbin of history. But the question remains, what lessons will be learned from this rise and fall? Will the new society, which is built on the ashes of the old, avoid the mistakes of the past? Or is humanity doomed to repeat the same cycle of hubris and self-destruction? The final passage of the book offers a chillingly prophetic warning. If the rebellion succeeds and the populists come to power, meritocracy will be finished. But so will the civilization that has been created by 2 centuries of technical progress. The populists will try to arrest the decline of the family. They will try to bring back rebellion. They will try to make the schools teach the 3 R's, which are reading, writing, and arithmetic. They will preach against progress, and the technically backward will inherit the earth. Now, after understanding the message of this book, we see that Young's satire seems to resonate through our contemporary world as well. Our world is obsessed with metrics, rankings, and this relentless pursuit of individual achievement. We see it in the pressure cooker environment of our schools and the pressures that our children face. We see it in the standardized tests children are subjected to and are judged by their ability to memorize facts and to vomit them on demand. We see it in the hyper-competitive world of work, where the talented are rewarded with ever greater riches and the lesser skilled, quote unquote, are left to scramble for scraps. We see this in this current age of people who are overqualified and underpaid. Just as in Jung's dystopia, we have created a society where intelligence is the ultimate currency, the key that unlocks the doors to privilege and power. Our universities were once havens of intellectual exploration, and now they've become breeding grounds for a new breed of worker, preparing people for jobs instead of teaching them actual things that are fueled by passion and curiosity. Our business world is fluent in the language of algorithms and spreadsheets, but it often lacks wisdom, empathy, or a sense of social responsibility. The seductive promise that meritocracy has given us is that those who work hard and possess the right skills will rise to the top. But it has become a powerful myth, and it masks the deeper inequalities that are present in our society. I've met a lot of geniuses who don't have a university degree, and I've met a lot of idiots who do. We tell ourselves that everyone has an equal chance, and that success is simply a matter of talent and effort. But the reality is far more complex. The playing field is tilted. The starting lines are staggered, and the children of the privileged inherit a head start that can never be fully overcome. A study conducted in the US showed that 50% of students that attend Ivy League colleges in the US come from privileged backgrounds and are there because their parents have a lot of money. Just as in Jung's vision, the seeds of discontent are being sown. The people who are left behind, or those who lack the skills or the connections to navigate this new world order, are growing restless. They're growing despairing. They see the meritocratic elite safely caged in their little gated communities and exclusive schools, pulling further and further away. They hear the pronouncements of the experts and the technocrats who claim to have all the answers, and they feel a growing sense of alienation and powerlessness. The danger, as Jung warned, is that this simmering resentment will boil over, and it will lead to a backlash against the very institutions that form the foundation of our society. The populist movements that are gaining traction now around the world are showing this discontent. They offer simple solutions to complex problems, and they scapegoat either the elites or some sort of minority, and they promise to restore a lost sense of community and belonging. So many times we see these slogans, "Make X country great again." We're trying to go back to some sort of glorious past. Whether our current movements and current political stances will dismantle this meritocratic building that we've set up remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The current system, with its excessive focus on individual achievement and its blind faith in the power of intelligence and rationality, is unsustainable. We need to find a new way forward. One that values not just the intellect, but also compassion, creativity, empathy, and this sense of a shared purpose. Right now, it's just everyone for themselves. Otherwise, we're going to risk fulfilling Jung's dystopian prophecy and a world where the technically backward inherit the earth and the very foundations of our civilization crumble. And the last line of the book is very telling as well, because of course we can go back to a past that we had, but we're going to also lose all this amazing progress that we've made to get here. Sure, the system is flawed, but how can we fix the flawed system without destroying everything that we've built? How can we right the wrongs without destroying all the good things that have come from this wrong? It is, of course, too much to say that everything is going wrong, but we must give ourselves this moment of thought to realize what is actually going wrong. How can we fix it? How can we play our part? Because in some way or the other, we're either going to be playing the role of the technocratic elite, or we're going to be playing the role of the technically backward or the disadvantaged people. We know we're somewhere in the spectrum because all of us together make up the world. So how are we going to move forward with it? It is a collective question and not an individual question. Because in a world that tries to put individual achievement over everything else, we have to come back to our roots. And we have to find out that we are in this together. We are a collective and we have to move forward as a collective. I hope this episode was food for thought, and I thank you for listening. Until next time.